Welcome to Thoughtful Planning, the place where real conversation, expert insight, and a touch of humor meet to turn our end-of-life uncertainties into self-assurance. I'm your co-host Santiago, a history buff and a big kid at heart.
And I'm Honey, your guide through the intricate dance of planning with care and a whole lot of warmth. Every week, we're here to turn those intimidating "are we ready" moments into confident "everything is under control" moments. Today's journey is one you won't want to miss. Hi, welcome to Thoughtful Planning. I'm Honey.
And I'm Santiago. Before we begin this episode, please note that we're not doctors, we're not legal professionals. The information we're going to share with you in this episode is for educational purposes only and should not be considered legal or medical advice. Always consult with qualified professionals for your decisions related to your own health and your end-of-life planning.
All right, so today we are diving deeper into advanced care planning by exploring a powerful visual resource we recently watched called Extremis. It's a short 2016 Netflix documentary that brings these difficult decisions to life. So if you've been following our previous episodes on advanced care, dementia, and mental health directives, you know how important it is to make these decisions ahead of time while you're clear of mind. But for some, hearing about this just over this audio podcast, it's not enough, and seeing it maybe can actually bring things into a better understanding.
Bringing that into perspective of the visual learners. I'm not going to say I cried, but yeah, there was somebody cutting onions in the room while we were watching it because there was a couple tears flowing here and there. But before we get too deep into this, let's start with the essential question for today. So, how can visual representations like the documentary Extremis help individuals and families make more informed advanced care decisions and maybe help you with those hard discussions we talked about?
Extremis was recommended to me by another doula, and I watched it first, and then I told Santiago I wanted him to watch it too, as it was a perfect show to share with our listeners on these important topics of advanced care planning that we've been having. It's a portrayal of the medical and emotional challenges people face when making these life or death decisions.
So it's like Honey said, it's extremely short. It's only 24 minutes long. It's rated PG, even though I think that it actually should be at least rated PG-13 because it's very emotionally intense. For me, it was pretty impactful seeing it, talking about it and hearing stories. It's different than seeing families go through these discussions at the bedside. It just shows that raw reality that families face in an ICU setting when they're faced with someone that's really ill or facing a serious injury. It highlights the importance of planning in advance and having those tough discussions that we've talked about with your loved ones and your healthcare providers.
Right. One of the biggest takeaways from Extremis is the challenge of facing tough decisions when no one knows what to do or what you want. The families and doctors have to navigate the balance between hope and reality. And without these clear directives, it can be a very painful process.
And when they're talking there, um, they're kind of making some assumptions instead of having those real facts like we would have on paper. So it really emphasizes the importance. And the healthcare providers talked about having those advanced care directives to guide the medical teams and loved ones. It should not be left up to guesswork at the last minute.
Right. And that's actually what all these families faced at the last minute. I mean, they didn't know what anyone wanted. And, guessing, it just puts a lot of guilt. It could put a lot of guilt on someone.
Yeah.
So another key theme is the emotional toll on the families, this like guilt that we just talked about. So you see the weight of these decisions on the loved ones when the patient can no longer communicate their wishes. And that is why it is so crucial to document and communicate your choices. It helps relieve that burden when the time comes. Now, there were actually two parts that were very impactful to me. One was when the family was torn on if they should remove the breathing tube or not.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the family members actually said, well, if it was me, I'd want to be taken off. And if I breathe on my own, it's God's will. And if I don't breathe, then that's God's will. That was just one of the family situations. The other part was another family, and there was it was a daughter, and she did not want to take her mom off of breathing support, saying that she did not want to murder her mom because her heart was still beating. I mean, to me, that she carried this thought that she would be murdering her mom if she took her off life support. And I know as a mom, I wouldn't want to put that burden on my child. So, my choice is, after one day, if I'm not breathing, and, actually I saw a video on Instagram about this. Actually, our daughter shared it with me, and it was funny. So it was about a lady who was saying something like, on day 2, if I haven't asked for a Manhattan or some chocolate, then take, unplug me. So,
Yeah, well, when we looked at, I've lived through this. We've lived through this with my father not having any of these directives, but um, the discussions we had were much different than the discussions on the documentary because we all looked to my mom and said, "Mom, what did he want?" And she was very clear with us. This is what he wanted. Um, she had lived with my father for 40 some odd years before he passed, but just having that clear discussion, a clear understanding, and if there's a family member that would have objected, that the discussions we would have had in that room with my father would have been much different um, than the ones that we did have.
mhm.
So, seeing the daughter talk to the doctors about feeling like she was murdering her mom, you're right. I would not want to put our kids through that.
Right,
I wouldn't want to put you through that, thinking that I'm killing the guy that I've lived with for a little bit, you know.
right,
But anyway, um, the film also highlights the role of the medical teams because this is hard on them too.
right.
The doctors, the nurses, um, having those directives provides them guidance, and they need direction from either the patient or the family. And that's why having those healthcare power of attorneys, having the directives is so essential. This is guidance that ensures your wishes are honored, even if you can't speak for yourself. Like that one lady that couldn't even draw letters. She was pointing at letters on like a keyboard thing that they had, just to tell them what she was feeling. And
Mhm,
I wonder if at that point where she's clearly incapacitated, could
mhm,
someone say that she couldn't make the decisions for herself at that point? That's just my wonder. I'm just throwing that out there because I wouldn't want how I'm acting to impact what's going on the papers. But anyway, I'll be quiet now.
All right. So finally, one of the most difficult decisions shown in the film is choosing quality of life versus quantity of time. So should aggressive treatment continue, or is it time to focus on comfort care? And this is one of the hardest decisions. And in the film, it gives a clear depiction of what those moments might look like. And I know for me, I would just want comfort care, quantity of time. Um, and actually, in the film, I recall they did keep one person. I don't remember which family it was, but they decided to keep their loved one on life support, and then 6 months later, they died on life support. So, um, that was. it's hard because then there's I hate to talk about money, but I mean it's part of this. All of that costs money, and that's it's sad. You know, what do you do? So that's why it's important to have these conversations now.
Well, we read an article the other day about a family that decided to keep their loved ones on life support, and it was hundreds of thousands of dollars to keep them alive, and it was just weeks, So, quite frankly, I'm the same with you. If I can't breathe on my own, if I can't eat on my own, if I can't do anything like that, you know, my better days have probably passed at that point. Just let me go.
Hmm.
So, if you're a visual learner, or if you just want to see what those decisions are like and what it could happen to your family, watch Extremis. It can help you visualize scenarios and maybe guide you in discussions we've mentioned in previous episodes.
Hmm.
So here's a few steps that maybe you want to take after watching. Take the time to reflect on your own values. What matters to you most? If you're in a similar situation, like Honey said, you know, do you want to stay on life support and extend your life, or is it about quality of care and how you're feeling at that point? Have a conversation with your family, your medical providers about your options. If you don't have any documents yet, consider using resources like we discussed in our last episode, Five Wishes or your state's healthcare directive forms to formalize your choices, or consider, talking to an attorney. And we'll provide some of those links from the last discussion we had on this into the show notes. And then once you've kind of have what you want, give those documents to your healthcare providers, provide them copies, or register them with your hospital. Like our hospital of choice is Brooke Army Medical Center here in San Antonio. We've registered our documents with them already. So if we need to change them, it's just a matter of us going back there, giving them the new documents, and they switch them out.
Right. And then just to add to that, when I went to have them put on file with BAMC, they told me that it's in their legal folder. And they told me just to know that if the doctors ask us, that they have it in the legal folder. So maybe ask when your hospital uploads it, if it's the same at your hospital.
Yeah, when I had that last procedure, remember he saw the documents. The doctor saw the documents in the folder, so that was good.
Yeah. Um, all right. So if you've already completed your directives, then consider sharing the film or our podcast with loved ones to spark meaningful conversations. And I should also say, if you've already completed your directives, I'm going to ask you, have you shared those directives with your loved ones? What are your wishes? And again, like Santiago just said, did you also share them with your healthcare provider? So we know this can be a very overwhelming and sensitive subject, but taking this one step at a time can make a difference. And I think with this, like I said, the past two episodes that we've had where we've talked about it, we've given you resources just to look up scenarios where you can have conversations with your family. And now, now having this visual option as well, we hope that you really take the time to research these for yourself.
Yeah, and when you think about it, you know, only still, and we'll say it again because we've said it multiple times, only a third of Americans have a will. And what good news is, over almost 50% of older Americans have healthcare directives. But I guess we just need to make sure, okay, you have them, but who knows about them?
Right.
Where have you shared them out? Having them in your safety deposit box at the bank, not a good option because nobody can get to that but you. But where do you have them? Have you given them to the right people? And and now let's get everybody else moving. Get your family to to do it themselves because you never know when you might need them.
Hmm.
So before we wrap up, let's revisit that essential question we talked about at the beginning of this discussion. So how can a visual representation like the documentary Extremis help individuals and families make a more informed advanced care directive decision. Is this going to help you say, you know what, let's just knock this out. It's not that hard. Just a couple of documents that we have to sign, get notarized, all that good stuff. Hopefully it helps.
Right.
It was pretty powerful.
So thank you for joining us. We hope today's discussion gives you the encouragement to take the next step in your planning journey. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who might benefit.
So, until next time, remember, every chapter you write today shapes your legacy tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us at Thoughtful Planning.
And just like the vibrant hues of a setting sun, we're wrapping up another episode of Thoughtful Planning. Every shared story and insight is a step closer to turning uncertainty into celebrations of preparedness.
Absolutely. And to our listeners, remember that every surprise that comes our way is an opportunity to grow, adapt, and learn. Stay tuned for more stories, expert insight, and of course, a touch of wit in our next episode.
We're not just co-hosts, we're fellow travelers on this journey. For more information on additional resources, which will help you take the next step in planning, look for the link in the show notes for our membership. Join us next time for another episode of Thoughtful Planning. Until then, keep living, laughing, and loving every moment.